The top 50 solo board games of all time, and today we're continuing the list. Hey, it's Jared from Specifically Solo. This is the second video in this series. Today we'll be counting down games 40 through 31 of my top 50 solo board games of all time. There is one new game on this list from 2024 that came out earlier this year, so let's go ahead and dive in. So at number 40 is a big story campaign game, and that is Role Player Adventures. So in Role Player Adventures, this is kind of set in the role player universe. There's a lot of other games involving these characters and this artwork and this world, and this is the big story game. So you're going to have these various chapters. There's 11 different chapters throughout the course of the game that you're going to be taking your character on and going through these adventures. And each of the chapters is in a separate storybook. And the main thing you're doing in this game is rolling dice. So you're assigning these dice to these puzzles and these tasks. You also have cards that will help you with the dice mitigation. But the really cool thing about Role Player Adventures is the story is really excellent. It's probably one of the best stories in a board game that I've ever seen. And so that's why it's on my list. I will say the dice rolling and doing those checks all the time can get a little repetitive, but overall the story definitely makes up for that, and it's a great solo experience too. It works really well to just set everything out and you can kind of just go on this adventure and go off into this world. Also, you can decide to use one of the pre-generated characters that comes with the game, or if you have the role player game, you can roll up your own character in that game and use it in this adventure. So it's very flexible in that way. It is a big game. It's going to take you a while to get through. All the chapters don't take super long, though. I would say the average chapter is maybe an hour to an hour and a half when you're playing solo, so they're nice digestible chunks, and overall it's not an extremely long campaign game, but a very fun one, especially one if you really like rolling dice. And again, the story is just so good in this one. So number 40, Role Player Adventures. 39 is a much smaller game than Role Player Adventures, and that is Cyberion. So Cyberion is a hand management game. You have these robots and you have these machines, and you're trying to match robots up to certain machines to basically repair them and get them into a different stack. And if you've repaired all of the machines by the end of the game, you will win. So this is a very simple game where you are going to try to be matching up the cards to different things on these machines. Maybe a machine needs 3 number 1 robots, or maybe it needs 2 blue robots, or maybe it needs, 2 of one type and 2 of another. But that's all you're doing in this game. It's a very quick game. It's just playing a card, looking at the cards that are kind of set out there on your player area, picking a few to repair a machine, and then going on to the next turn. But there's some tension in this game, because if you ever have a turn where you can't repair a machine, you have to turn in one of these tokens, and you start the game with 1. If you run out of those and you also have to can't repair a machine at the end of the turn, then you lose the game. So you're always constantly battling with how many machines do I want to repair versus how many do I want to leave out there to possibly have an opportunity on the next turn. There's also a lot of different modules in this game too. So the base game is very simple, but you can add some things that come in the box to kind of beef up the experience a little bit if you want a little bit more of a challenge. Overall, a very fun solo game, very quick setup, very quick playtime, but I love it as a card game and as a great hand management game as well. So if you really like that mechanism, you will want to check out Cyberion, which is at number 39. 38 is a game about running your own TV station, and that is The Networks. Now, this game is a little hard to find right now. It's been out of print for quite some time. I believe I saw a rumor that Allplay has picked this up and is possibly working on a reprint and also a new expansion, which I'm very excited for. But in The Networks, you're going to have your own TV station, and you are going to set your schedule and your lineup. You're also getting stars and ads that you're going to be adding to your programs as well. At its core, this is a set collection and drafting game. You've got decks of cards that are set out, and you're taking various things from those decks and adding them to your board. You're trying to have the most viewers at the end of the game, and whoever has the most viewers wins. Now, in the solo mode, it's a little bit different. You're trying to reach a certain number of viewers, and the solo mode is just going to take certain cards from certain piles. So they're always just going to basically take a card out of a pile, and then that won't be an option for you anymore. So in the solo mode, when it can can't take a certain card, say that it's run out of stars or ads or something like that to take, it will basically just drop a cube onto this turn order track, and that's kind of a counter that you've got going through the course of the game. If that ever fills up and you can't add another cube onto that, well, then you lose the game before the game ends. So there is some nice tension there in terms of how long do I want to keep this round going before I do what is called dropping and budgeting, which is where I say my round's over, I'm getting either money or viewers and moving on to the next round. The really cool thing about the networks is it's a very kitschy game. It's got really fun artwork and some show titles that riff on other popular shows. Everything just has a very cartoonish feel to it, which I really enjoy. And there's also some interesting things going on as well. Like your shows, they might get you a lot of viewers in the first 1 or 2 seasons, and then it might drop off later on the longer you have it on. Or it might be the reverse. Maybe in the first season, it doesn't get that many viewers, but in the second and third season, it really shines. So you want to keep it around for a while. So you're constantly just trying to manage that lineup of your 3 shows. I really like this one. I think the theme really comes through in this game, and I don't think there's a lot of games with the theme of running your own television station. And so for those reasons, it really appeals to me, and the network's number 38 on my list. 37 is a game about horse racing. That's Long Shot, the dice game. So in Long Shot, the dice game, as you can tell, you're going to have these little wooden pawns that are representing various horses, and you're going to roll the dice and move those horses around the racetrack. And you're trying to bet on the horses that you think are going to win the race. So it's a very fast game. You're constantly trying to basically hedge your bets and come up with the best way to make the most money possible to win the game at the end. The solo mode, you're competing against a guy named Roland, and basically you're rolling these 2 dice, one that determines how far you're going to move and one that determines which horse you're going to move, and you're just matching those up on Roland's board and then seeing what he is going to do. It's a very quick and simple solo mode, but also one that is still competitive and feels like a real player. So I really enjoy the theme of this one as well. I think it's fun to bet on those horses, and maybe you bet on the orange horse and it gets out to a big lead early on, but then it kind of falls back later on in the race. Or maybe you bet on somebody and they come from behind and win, and you get a lot of money at the end. All those things are very satisfying. It's also very easy to set this one up. You can play it multiple times in a row, and then you're constantly just, rolling those dice and seeing which horses move, and it gets really exciting even when you're playing solo. So I really enjoyed this one. You also have, during the course of the game, some special abilities that you can utilize, that you might have personal player powers that come into play here. And once 3 horses cross the finish line, the game is over. But there are lots of different ways to earn money during the course of the race. So there's a couple of different things that you can do to try and have the highest amount of money at the end. And like the game says, it's called Long Shot, the dice game. Are you going to bet on the favorite? Are you going to bet on a long shot? And maybe it really pays off big at the end of the game. So number 37, Long Shot, the dice game. A nice little, not really a roll and write per se, although it kind of is. It's more of like a roll and move with a really cool betting aspect built in. 36 is a cooperative game that works fantastic solo, and that is The Loop. So, like the networks, this is kind of another wacky game where you are battling the evil Dr. Foe. And throughout the course of the game, there is this little cube tower that is in the middle of the board, and you're going to drop cubes into that every turn. And if one particular section of the board fills up with too many cubes, well, that is a bad thing. You are trying to complete missions throughout the course of this game too, and when you play solo, you can play with anywhere between 2 and 4 characters. You just take the cards from those characters' decks, shuffle them all up, and then you draw, and whoever has 3 cards first, whichever character gets 3 of their particular card first, that's the character you use on that turn. So it is a very, very simple solo mode, not a lot of rules additions to this at all, and the thing that I really like about The Loop is it is very modular. There's 4 different game modes that you can play. There's a lot of different missions. Every game is going to feel different in terms of where those cubes come out and just which characters you play with. All the characters feel a little bit different as well. So there's a lot of content in this box, and I just really find myself coming back to it a lot. Again, it's a very easy one to set up. It does take a little while to play, like 45 to 60 minutes, but you get a really nice experience in that playtime. And I think the modular ability of it is what really intrigues me about The Loop. It's also, like I said, got kind of a fun art style, very cartoony vibes to it as well. It's all very lighthearted, but it is a challenge. You're going to lose more often than you win win in this game. So don't let that cute art fool you. This is not an easy game by any means. It's a little punishing at times, but a lot of fun. The Loop at number 36. Number 35 is a complex roll and write, and that is Three Sisters. So in Three Sisters, you have a farm, and you are trying to basically plant crops, you're trying to work with your bees, you're trying to harvest flowers at times, and there's different tracks, and you're going to mark off on those tracks as you acquire items throughout the course of the game. And then also another thing about these tracks is there are circles that represent harvests, and that's going to generate goods, and then you unlock bonus actions when you do that as well. And so all of these tracks offer different things to you throughout the course of the game, and then the game lasts each round. And there's also sort of a rondel type thing going on here where you are moving the farmer, and then the farmer kind of dictates what action you can do for that particular round. So the solo mode for this one is a little bit punishing, the one that comes in the box. However, there's a really nice variant on BGG that I like to play with. You can find it in the forums, and that makes it a little bit less punishing. It's also a little bit easier to run. But if you like really crunchy roll and writes, and that's been a big trend lately, some of these roll and writes coming out that are a little bit more involved, I really like that as a particular type of game. I love filling up those tracks, crossing off things on my various sheets, and trying to get the highest score possible. So if you enjoy all those things, and if you enjoy this theme, then I would definitely check this one out. This is Three Sisters, the dice game, at number 35. 34 is a big Euro. I would consider this a classic at this point. This is Teotihuacan, City of the Gods. So this is a worker placement game in which your workers are dice. It's also got a rondel type style thing going on as well. And so you're going to move your worker around this board, and you're going to choose one of two areas of these tiles that you're going to land on. One offers you an action and also a worker upgrade, and the other provides you with a more powerful bonus but no upgrade. So your workers are upgrading as you're going around this board as well. It's set in, ancient times where you're trying to basically build this pyramid up. There are tiles that you have that are really thick, these thick wooden tiles that you build up throughout the course of the game to kind of construct this pyramid. And this is a really thinky game. This is probably one of the heaviest games in this top 50, especially on the list so far. But I really enjoy the theme of this one, and the worker placement is really, really good. It gives you a lot of really nice decisions. The solo mode is a little complicated. However, there is an online application for this that will run basically the solo mode for you. So whenever I play, I just load that up on my phone. I let it tell me kind of what I need to do with the solo mode on that particular turn. It makes it a lot easier for me to understand, and I also get it to the table more as well. This is also a big game, a lot of setup, but a very, very satisfying experience. And like I said, this is considered kind of a classic of board gaming at this point, and the solo mode is really fantastic for this. It's going to fight you tooth and nail for kind of every single worker placement spot, and you'll want to go to a particular spot and you can't because the solo mode is there, or if you go there, you're going to have to pay a penalty of some sort. So really, really fun worker placement game. And again, the upgrading of the dice is really what makes this one unique too, because you constantly have to battle that decision of, oh, do I want the better bonus, or do I want to go to the spot that's maybe a little bit less of a bonus, but I'm going to be able to upgrade my worker and be more powerful on the next turn. And also, maybe I'm trying to go to a spot where I also have some of my workers as well, because the bonus is going to be greater if I do that too. So all of that coming into play in Teotihuacan, City of the Gods. That is number 34. So number 33 on this list is the game that came out this year. It was a Gen Con release, and that is Windmill Valley. So in Windmill Valley, this is an action selection game where you have these little cog wheels that you are rotating every turn during the course of the game, and you are going to select different actions that you want to do. There's lots of different things that you're doing in this game. You are putting windmills out onto a board. You're collecting tulips. You're trying to get upgrades for your wheel. And the thing that I really enjoy about this one is there's just so much different stuff to do, and it is also not that complicated though to understand. You would think with a lot of various actions or a lot of different things that you could do on your turn, it might be complex. That is not the case. Designer Danny Garcia here has done a really nice job of making it a very satisfying experience without making it a very rules heavy experience. So it's a little bit of a lighter Euro than some of the ones that come out today, but I really enjoy this one. The wheel thing is so cool. cool, rotating those wheels and deciding on which actions you want to do. Also, as you upgrade those throughout the course of the game, you constantly want to try to get that one in the slot that you can take that action, because it really will give you a lot of benefits. And you have different strategies that kind of play out throughout the course of this game. One game, you might really build a lot of windmills. Another game, you might decide you want to collect a lot of tulips and kind of go into that set collection aspect of the game. So there's lots of different paths that you can take. Also, unlike some other Euros, this one is very colorful. It pops on the table. It is very bright and vibrant, and I just enjoy this one. Again, I picked this one up at Gen Con. I have been playing it a lot since then. I also have a review of this one on my channel if you would like to check out my thoughts on it, but I think it's grown on me the more times I've played it for sure. That is Windmill Valley, and that was number 33. Number 32 is another big epic campaign game from Ryan Lockett, Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. Wow, this one is a ton of fun. And in this particular game, you are just exploring. If you really like a game where you open a map book basically and you can go anywhere you want, then you want to check out Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. I prefer this one to the original Sleeping Gods for a few different reasons. I think it's a little bit easier to operate in terms of running it solo. You still have to control a lot of characters, but it's not quite as overwhelming as the original. Also, the combat system has been cleaned up a little bit as well, and I think it works better in this sequel. And the story is really, really good. That's one thing that Ryan Lockett and Red Raven Games excel in these story type games, is their story and their world always really comes alive, and that is just the case here in Sleeping Gods. So you're taking these characters, you're interacting with various things throughout the course of this story, you're overcoming obstacles, you're searching for relics, you're camping, you're exploring, you're deciding which actions you want to take, and then also there's a different type of combat in this game from the original, and that's going to give you some different challenges in combat, and it makes combat very unique as well. And you're not going to encounter combat every single turn in this game, or even every single session of this game that you play, but there will be times when you do have to fight these monsters and some of these creatures that are in this world, and it's a very satisfying experience. I think it's really fun solo because, again, you can just decide by yourself how you want this story to go and where you want to explore and how you want to progress. You don't have anybody else at the table trying to weigh in on what they might want to do. You have complete control over this experience. It is an epic game. It is a very big game, lots of components, lots of things to set up, but man, is it a lot of fun to just kind of immerse yourself in that world and go exploring and say, I'm going to go over here and do this. I'm going to take this character and go here, or maybe we should go check out that thing, or this character in the game told us this, and now we should go back to that area. And the world is just huge and sprawling. You likely won't even experience the whole world on your first playthrough of this, so it sets you up for multiple playthroughs and multiple different paths that you can take. And so Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, a very fun campaign and storybook game, number 32 on my top 50 solo games of all time. And rounding out this list, in at number 31 is another classic. That is Everdell. So Everdell is a tableau builder and also a worker placement game, but this really simplifies worker placement. You can place a worker out, and there's only a couple of different spots that you can go to on the board. Then you're just going to perform the action on that space. You can do that, or you can decide to play a card. So while you're putting your workers out there, you're also trying to build this personal tableau that is in front of you as well. And these cards combo off of each other, which makes it a really unique experience. Also, the deck is very large. You likely won't see all the cards every time that you play, and those abilities and things are different on every single card, so it makes every playthrough really unique. What I like about Everdell is it's not a very complex game at all, but one that offers a lot of deep strategy and really interesting decisions. Also, the solo mode that comes with the game I think is fine. I don't think it's a bad solo mode by any means. Some people disagree with that, but I find it to be completely okay. But there is an expansion you can get for Everdell called Mistwood, which is basically just a solo only expansion. Really beefs up the solo mode. The solo mode feels more like another player when you play with that particular version of the solo mode. Also, there's some different modules and things in that. So if you end up liking Everdell, maybe you want to get that to expand your solo experience. But base Everdell with the solo is a lot of fun. Also, this is really the game that kind of kicked off this whole woodland creatures theme, and now you see that in so many board games. But Everdell is really one of the first to kind of adopt that theme and make that a big feature of its game. The artwork is beautiful as well. The little tree you set up is cool. It has a really fantastic table presence. And again, a really just classic kind of worker placement game. And then that tableau building is a ton of fun as well. So Everdell, number 31 on this list. So there we go. That is 40 through 31 of my top 50 solo board games of all time. If you missed 50 through 41, be sure to go and check out that video. And just to recap this list real quick, in at number 40, we had Role Player Adventures. 39 was Cyberion. 38 was The Networks. 37, Long Shot the Dice Game. 36 was The Loop. 35, Three Sisters. 34, Teotihuacan, City of Gods. 33 was Windmill Valley. 32, Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. And 31 was Everdell. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this one. I'll be back soon with 30 through 21 as we continue to count our way to my #1 favorite solo game of all time. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.